very delicate for Jay. He cannot compete with the mobility of this army, and not to mention that the speed tower is currently in Albino's favor, so all of Albino's units getting a small passive boost to speed. Nice little split up here by Albino as he dashes forward with his Vulcan, trying to connect with some of the army of a Jay just to neutralize everything. But this is a full bob pull. There are no workers in the natural or the third base. This is an all-in moment here for Jay. These bobs are very good at repairing these Vulcan, though. There's a lot of surface area to try and keep these Vulcan up and alive, and they do end up being a decent amount of fodder to provide coverage for these units. But once again, this is an all-in moment. Albino's going to try and clear a little bit of brush to open up as many paths as possible, but here comes the engagement. There's Echoes on the high ground trying to provide some decent coverage, and they're going to be able to pick off some of the Vulcans on the right-hand side, and I just don't think Jay has nearly enough to deal with this. He's got some good micro pulling these Vulcan back, trying to keep them alive, but the army of Albino is just way too strong. But Albino is in a much better supply position than his opponent. 69 to 37. This is rapidly getting out of control here. I don't even think we have any upgrades at this point. In fact, are there any units left? Okay, yeah, there are a couple of Exos. They did get quick draw hustle, so that is helpful, especially against these Lancers with low health. Nonetheless, they're going to be able to be picked off rather quickly by these Exo. But there's an old saying, more stuff beats less stuff, and right now 5-6 Exos is not going to be enough to deal with even this weakened army, especially not when a Vulcan is going to leap on forward and bully these units back into the corner. This health camp, it doesn't even belong to Jay, it belongs to Albino, and that is going to be a counterproductive engagement for the red Vanguard player who was hoping to benefit from the health camp, but instead it only helped his opponent. In terms of DPS over the course of that fight, we shouldn't let those units get separated. Albino doesn't have to walk away from this fight empty-handed, though. He's cleared out this worker line at the 4th base location. He might be able to just pick up all of these workers in general, but look at that Sky Mine. That Sky Mine is ready to deal a little bit of damage, but Jay continuing to push on the opposite side of the map. This feels like a direct strike fight from StarCraft 2, where these opponents are just kind of pushing into each other, and once there's a perceived advantage, they just kind of work their way around. The Vulcan all leap off to the left-hand side of this fight. There was a little bit of a lockdown, so a Sentinel in this fight for Albino to try and provide any amount of DPS swing that he possibly can get. Now he has a great concave. Look at that. All of these units fire in straight lines, and with that concave, there's a huge amount of DPS swing just from positioning alone. Albino with a very tactical move here. The Greater Shrine. Wait, this one's the Greater Shrine. Oh. That's weird. It looks goofy because it got stopped mid-upgrade. Picking off these workers is nice, but again, it's just a matter of time. That dragon's going to be picked off. Nice use of the Sky Mine. And where is the main army? Main army's over across the map here, allowing this to unfold here. Again, I can't stress enough, 300 supply to 64. This game is over. Did I forget to update the score? This is game number 1, my friends. Game number 1 here in this best of 5. There we go. GG is called. His army at this point. And yes, he would eat a bunch of miasma. It would soften his army, but I don't think it would make any difference here because there's just way too much Vanguard. Some of these valuable units of Grimmy getting picked off up towards the front. That Hellborn didn't need to be anywhere near the front lines. But now we have some Graven here to kind of lock things back into place. Those might even just be able to jump over into the different parts of the map, but instead they're going to be able to find that Grimmy is trying desperately to expand in the top right-hand corner. They're going to be able to infiltrate. Those deal 500 damage a pop, if I remember correctly. It's a lot of damage that comes out of what? 5 to 6 units. It's really, really good. Yeah, Grimmy's going to have to move away from that.
It's 25%. So it's not flat. If I remember right, maybe it's the 33%. It is percentage HP. It's not flat damage. So yeah, Grimmy is gonna tap out one, but look at all these Lancers. They're gonna run straight on top of things. Bonus damage versus the Shroud Stones, and this Vulcan is just doing a great job. It's eventually gonna have to go, and well, it's gonna get bubbled up, and some damage is gonna be there, but Bubble is soaking a lot of the damage. All the Shroud Stones are now dead. Base is starting to get a little bit lower, and these gods have to run away. Vulcan, it's gonna go down eventually, but these HYY asking, is he dead? The answer is yes. He is, in fact, very dead in this game. Between the economic damage and the technical damage and everything else, it is a bad day to be a Grimmy fan. And really what we're looking at here is Albino's builds look a lot more fluid, a lot better set up than any of the builds that Grimmy has been. Like, Grimmy has some really interesting ideas. Going Spriggan Miasma to lock everything in the Miasma, for example, is a really interesting idea. It just
the attack potential, but it reduces that momentum to get out of the way of these bombing runs. And at the moment that Mixu or Albino in this case are not able to dodge these bombing runs, that's going to be devastating damage for that player. And Albino now has cleared out that northern base. The top left corner still intact right now. That is an okay spot to get into. Mixu, though, is trying to build a scrapyard on the opposite side of the map. He's trying to contest some of Albino's Therium, so Albino's going to need to try and find a way to deal with that. Bombing run coming down on a good chunk of these, but Nano Bubble protects all of those ground units from taking lethal damage at this point. I think Albino, with the power of Sentinels and the Nano Bubble, is going to be able to outlast his opponent here. And at the 17-minute mark, I think Albino is on the push forward. The helicarriers float on in, and Mixu has to tap out. GG is called, and the red Vanguard player showcasing that tech is important in this matchup, and he claims game number 1. Albino backing away, but once again, it's all about equalizing for Albino. This is what we saw in game number 1. There were moments where Albino was down in supply, and through good positioning and smart decision making, he was just able to claw things back and force Mixu into a bad position.
Oh, a little bit awkward. Pulls the Bobs to mass repair, but again, there are 4 Vulcans here. These Bobs, watch them disappear. They're not going to be there for very much longer. Nice stun forward on top of one of these Vulcans, but the Bobs, again, they're trying to do something. They're just attacking their own mech bay. This has got to be a mistake, and certainly Mixu is not super happy about it, because that means that he is dead in this game at this point. 101 supply to 72. The third base totally broken, and Mixu's not able to do whatever it is that he wanted to do in this game. Yes, you get more Therium, but somehow, despite that, Albino has more Vulcans. He committed less into the bio, and that is going to be all she wrote. There's just not a lot. Yeah, Mixu's going to tap out at this point, and Albino, you said he was the underdog. Well, he's up 2-0 thus far.
It's primed and ready to go. That was a buff that was introduced in the most recent patch this week, but ideally, this is starting to fall apart for Mixo. He's lost to his supply advantage, 274 to 184. Now, he is rotating around the map. He is still trying to claim some of these bases, but as more and more Hornets get added into the mix, they're not going to be fighting with the main army Behemoth. They're going to be harassing these units off of these vulnerable spots.
Yeah, it's wild. I look at this. I think we're going to look at the end of this game. Maybe if the game goes a lot longer with the economy being taken out, it might not be the same. But I think we're going to look at the chart at the end of this game and say, wow, Mixu mined so much more than Albino did. His economy was so much more developed than Albino's, but Albino just took the good fight. Look at this. Bottom left, we got a command post on the way, just trying to, it's not a thing. This is not allowed. But it is interesting, right? I really thought Mixu was going to win this game. He had every advantage.
Anyways, they're both tapped out here. Every sentry post that goes down, again, it's more resources that have been devolved into something else. Finally, now the repair-o-medics double up and keep that Vulcan alive. This is a very dedicated effort by Mixu. This is everything. This is the entire game right now for Mixu. He wins or he goes home. The loss of 4-0 in this series. So everything is all in this push right here, right now.
Now, a cool little micro thing as well. We noticed the Vulcans were shooting the command post as they waited for the Hedgehogs to just apply once again, because that keeps their gun spun up. That means that they are on maximum damage as long as possible. Now Hogs are going to dive in once again. Double repairmatic is not enough here, and the Vulcan will continue to fall down. Remember, despite this setup, technically as the second Vulcan's dead, and that really should do it. Despite technically this Therium economy here, it's not being mined from. So it really, getting Vulcans out is only one Vulcan at a time. You can really only support the single mech bay. Despite how much better the economy is of Mixu, he's gonna get taken down 4-0. And Albino has a date with Snockstar in the finals.
Now, I mean, Albino is in full control of this game at number 1. He's got the tech he needs. He has the nano defense bubble, which it negates like what, 75-80% of damage to units inside of it. It's an incredible amount of protection for these units, and all it does is it allows this army to stick around longer and longer. You've seen that Albino has cleared out all of these trees. This is a wide open place to engage, and that's exactly what Albino needs to maneuver these units and try to avoid all of these miasma pools as they get settled into place. He's going to run out of energy, and these Hexen are not going to be able to provide continued coverage. There is no energy tower on this map. This is a difficult position for Snockstar to fight into, and you can see it reflected in the supply. 201 to 122. Grabbing that helicarrier is good, yes, but he still has yet to find an answer for this army that's going to just shove on forward, and that's going to be all she wrote in game number 1. Snockstar can't weather the Vanguard storm, and he has to tap out. In a moment, let's see if we can try and get some extra damage, but instead he fights a little bit off a shroud. He loses a couple of these workers. Albino doing a nice job of picking up these effigies. This is very, very controlled and patient play from the Vanguard player, who has, I think he has mused that this might be a third base economy here. Good stomp by the Magmadon to zone these units back and away, but Exos are so good against Magmadons. I think Snockstar has overstayed though. Albino with some very careful micro, and he's picked off all of these big units, and now he's going to charge on in.
It feels, you get the Weavers because of the early aggression and because really the lack of Therium, but which it sounds weird because they're buff, but anyway, you need more Hellborn. So that doesn't feel great, and now being forced to get these Magmadons just to clear things up when the quick draw hustle's already procced is just not a good feeling. You need some way to clear the Lancers out so the Gaunts can get on top of all of these Exos, but that is just not a thing. In fact, Plague Axes are done now, but just look at this pressure coming out of Albino. Value over time that Snockstar's trying to find. Even still though, we talk about this, the supply is significant, and this pressure just continues to stay on the edge of Shroud, where the Weavers, they can get up to the edge. Once they get off Shroud, they are not fast whatsoever. So because you're able to beat this back, because you're able to kill off some of these units, that means the effigies go down. That means the presence that Snockstar can have on the map is just going to get taken down. But I love this little Nightfall surprise. Slows the army down, prevents some of the kite, infests a little bit. Even still, though, Weavers are getting targeted down. It's so much damage from these upgraded, newly buffed Exos that at this point, even if you get a couple of the Exos, I don't think it really matters. Oh, no. Lancers on the Gaunts as well, Rushy. And this looks like Snockstar might have just died.
Yeah, this is what Albino was hoping for, that Snockstar would just overextend a little bit. This army is very snowbally, especially since those Exos can kite so well. And one wrong move by Snockstar has sent him to the Shadow Realm.
And we've all seen the story. When Exos get on top of Magmadons, the Magmadons, they just die. So Albino up double the supply at this point. 80 supply, 163 to 87. He is finding the trades that he needs, and we can see the power of Titans. Or really the lack of power of Titans for the Infernal player. Just not enough Therium. Very hard to afford the army that you need to make this defense happen. Even as we see the miasmas go down, this base, this shrine, it's going to get targeted down. Maybe it survives, but it's going to be very, very low and certainly vulnerable to a follow-up. Yeah, Magmadon runs forward. It's going to get taken down as well. And now Vulcans from both sides. More damage being done. The Weavers are going to fall down. This feels like a system shock opportunity. Diving on top. Miasmas, they're going to try to be popped defensively, but there is nothing doing here whatsoever. The army falls down. All the Hexen are dead. There's no energy even if you make any more, so no miasmas available. And yeah, sure, the army's getting a little bit low. Some of them are infested, but that is what Albino needed. He's going to sweep Snockstar from the map. He's going to not sweep him, but take him out of this tournament. And he will win Aureil STI number 3.